Most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do planning a 30-year retirement. And that sounds dramatic until you realize how many Canadians retire without answering 5 basic questions that can have a significant impact on their financial future. Today, I'm going to walk you through those 5 questions. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly where the gaps are in your own plan. Hi, I'm Scott Bonerts, Senior Portfolio Manager and Financial Advisor at Umbrella Wealth Management of Raymond James. Every week, I help Canadians navigate these exact decisions, and I can tell you from experience that the difference between a confident retirement and a stressful one often comes down to whether someone took the time to answer these questions before they handed in their resignation. Here's what we are going to cover. First, the income question most people get completely wrong. Second, the tax trap that catches almost everyone off guard. And third, the healthcare and lifestyle questions that can quietly derail even a solid financial plan. Let me start with question number 1. How will you actually replace your paycheck? This sounds obvious, but here is where most people stumble. They can tell me exactly what they have saved, but when I ask how that translates into monthly income for them, they go quiet. Picture this. You have $800,000 in your RSP, another $200,000 in your TFSA, and CPP and OAS coming at the same point. Feels like a lot, right? But what does that actually mean in terms of cash hitting your actual account every month? And here's the part that keeps me up at night for my clients. Which accounts do you draw from first and in what order? Get this wrong, and you could end up paying significantly more taxes over time depending on your strategy. I've seen it happen. The goal is not just having enough saved. The goal is building a withdrawal strategy that turns those savings into sustainable income without unnecessary tax drag. Question number 2. What is your actual tax plan for retirement? This is where I see the biggest mistakes. Most Canadians assume they will be in a lower tax bracket once they stop working. Sounds logical. You are earning less, so you'll pay less tax. But retirement taxes work differently than you think. Here's what catches people off guard. Your RSP withdrawals are fully taxable income. Your old age security can get clawed back if your income crosses certain thresholds. For 2026, the clawback begins when net income exceeds roughly $93,454. And that threshold is indexed higher over time. RRIF minimums force you to withdraw money, whether you need it or not, starting the year after you convert your RSP. But here is the one that really gets me. If your spouse passes away, the surviving partner often gets pushed into a higher tax bracket while losing one old age security payment entirely. This is something called the widow's tax trap. I've sat across from widows who have no idea this was coming. The time to plan for this is before you retire, not after. If you're sitting on a large RSP balance and you have not mapped out a tax-efficient drawdown strategy, you could be paying more tax than necessary without even realizing it. Now, if you're watching this and thinking you do not have a clear answer to either of these first 2 questions, you are not alone. This is exactly why I work with clients at Umbrella Wealth Management at Raymond James to build retirement income plans that account for taxes, timing, and everything in between. If you want to help mapping out your own strategy, I have put a link in the description below to book a time with me. Question number 3, what will you actually spend in retirement? This one trips people up because most people use planning tools that make a lazy assumption. They assume your spending stays flat and rises with inflation every year for 30 years. But think about your own parents or grandparents. Is this how they actually spent the money? Here's what actually happens. Retirees tend to spend more in their 60s when they are healthy and active, traveling, golfing, hanging out with the grandkids. Spending drops in their 70s as they slow down. Then it spikes again in their 80s because healthcare costs rise. Researchers call this the retirement spending smile. And if you plan For a straight line spending, when your actual spending follows a curve, you might underspend in your early years when you could have enjoyed the money most. I have had clients tell me their biggest regret was not taking that trip when they were in their 60s because they were worried about running out of money at 85. The point is not to guess. The point is to build a spending plan that reflects how you actually want to live. Question number 4. What's your healthcare plan before age 65 and after? In Canada, we are fortunate to have public healthcare, but here's what it does not cover: prescription drugs, dental, vision, physiotherapy, long-term care. These costs add up fast, especially if you retire before 65 and lose your employee benefits. Think about this. You retired at 60 with a great employer coverage. Day one of retirement, that coverage disappears. Do you have a plan to bridge that 5-year gap? Have you priced out private healthcare insurance? And what about later in life? Long-term care in Canada can vary significantly in cost depending on the province, the type of facility, and the level of support you need, ranging from a few $1,000s a month for basic care to considerably more for private or specialized care. Most people assume they will never need it, but the data suggests a meaningful portion of retirees will require some level of care. You do not need to have every answer right now, but you need to have thought about it. Question number 5. What will you actually do with your time? Now, this might sound like a soft question, but I've seen it cause more retirement regret than bad investments ever have. And I mean that. Think about it. For 40 years, your identity and your routine were shaped by your work. You knew where to be on Monday morning. You had colleagues, deadlines, purpose. Then one day you wake up and that structure is completely gone. Some people thrive immediately, but others feel lost for months or even years. I have had clients come back to me 6 months into retirement and they say they have never felt more alone. The happiest retirees I work with are the ones who retire to something, not just away from something. They have hobbies they are genuinely excited about, projects that give them purpose, social connections outside of work, and a reason to get out of bed. If your only plan is to figure it out later, you might be setting yourself up for the harder transition than you ever expected. So let me bring this all together. Retirement is not just a financial event. It is a complete life transition. And the people who navigate it best are the ones who take the time to answer these 5 questions before they make the leap. How will you replace your income? What is your tax strategy? What will you actually spend? How will you handle healthcare? And what will you do with your time? If you can answer all 5 of these with confidence, you're ahead of most Canadians. If you cannot, now is the time to start working on it. Retiring well is not about having the most money. It is about having a clear path that turns what you have into the life you actually want. If you want to sit down and work through these questions for your own situation, book a time with me. The link is in the description below. See you in the next video.